So hello everyone. Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, today Shreya will take the session. Okay, I'll be there also. Yeah. So Shreya, you can share your screen now, and we can start around 4-5. Let's wait
sure.
for one or more minute.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Then
I'll
we
share my screen.
yeah.
Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we can begin. So good evening, everyone. I'm Shreya, and we'll be going through the activity questions and the practice questions of week 10. So in week 10, mainly the concept covered is ensemble learning. So we'll start with activity 10.1. So the first question is bagging can make unstable classifiers like decision trees more robust. Is that true or false? Anyone who'd like to answer?
Hey guys, since today we have very less audience, so I would ask or request you to get some more engagement. Okay. Just
Yeah, feel free to answer and we can clarify the concept. Yeah.
wrong, right? Don't think about that. Yeah.
Okay, sure. I'll just go ahead. I think so. Bagging, the answer here is true because the purpose of bagging is to make these classifiers like decision trees more robust, right? Like we are bagging is ensemble learning, which means it tries to prevent overfitting, which is a problem with decision trees. So that is the reason why they make the models more robust. So this we're marking as true. Next, what happens when we keep max samples as float in sklearn ensemble bagging classifier? Does it throw an error? Does it convert the float into an integer and then then draws the samples, or does it multiply that by the proportion by the total number of samples and then chooses that many samples for the model? Okay, so max samples gives us an option to specify whether specify either a float or an integer. If an integer is specified, it takes that many samples, and if the float is specified, then it chooses that as that proportion of the total number of samples as the number of samples for training the classifier. I hope that's clear. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Next is which of the following are correct in the context of voting classifier? When the voting is set to hard, the module uses predicted class labels based on argmax of the sums of predicted probabilities. When it's set to soft, it is based on argmax of sums of predicted probabilities. When the voting is hard, it chooses by majority rule voting, and when it is soft, the model uses predicted class labels by majority rule voting. So which of these is correct? It's a multiple select question.
You would like to try, or maybe you can answer what is argmax function, and yeah, if you guys
Basically, yeah, this is basically what is hard voting and soft voting, right? Just based on whatever we've learned. Okay, so in case of hard voting, the choice of so everybody is clear, I hope, on how the predictions are selected in case of voting. There are multiple classifiers, and we choose among. I mean, we kind of use the predictions of all the classifiers to get an output for the test sample. So here, when the voting is set to hard, amongst all the each classifier will have a single prediction, and each sample will have a prediction, and amongst all those predictions, whichever is the majority will be chosen as the output for the ensemble. And in case of soft, there will be probabilities for attached to each of the classes, right? So for each of the classes, classifiers for each of the classes, whatever is the probabilities, those will be summed up, and amongst the total, whichever class has the highest probability will be the prediction. So the answer would be, in case of soft, it would be the argmax of sums of predicted probabilities. And in case of hard voting, it would be the majority rule voting. Yeah, if there are, any questions? Okay, moving on. In sklearn ensemble voting regressor, invoking the fit method on the voting regressor will fit clones of those original estimators that will be stored in the class attributes of self-estimators. Sorry, in class attribute self-estimators. So the answer here would be true as well, because depending on how many we've specified as the number of classifiers, it will kind of fit this, the base estimator which we've given. It will fit that base estimator that many times for the in the voting regressor model. Okay. Random forests differ from bagging by forcing the tree to use a subset of its available features while constructing each tree. Is this true or false?
Hello. I request everyone just participate at least. I mean, it's going little silent. I mean, only AI is talking, so that's why I'm saying this. You may ask. I mean, if you have any questions or something like.
Yeah, if there's any concept that's not clear, also you can ask.
Even the basic concept also, like, I mean, what is bagging, what is wishing, whatever you want. I mean, you can ask. Okay. Or maybe you can chat. You can use the chat box also.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, Priya, you can continue.
Sure. So yeah, this would be true again, because random forests are again, the purpose of random forests is to implement this bagging mechanism by using a subset of the features, right? So it uses a subset of the samples as well as a subset of the features. So the answer to this would be true. Moving on to activity 10.2. So when the base estimator in sklearn ensemble bagging classifier is set to none, then what would be the base estimator? I think this is an interesting one, because we've been learning.
It would be logistic, right?
Bagging classifier. It's asking you for the default, like what
No,
would
the logistic regression.
Bagging classifier implements decision tree as a default. So I mean,
sorry, the base estimator. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you can use anything. You're right in the sense that anything can be used, but by default, sklearn uses decision tree classifier. Okay. Next question. Can we set OOB score as true if bootstrap is set to false? Anyone who'd like to try?
I don't think so, because out of Bootstrap error is just like, if Bootstrap is true, then it makes sense to have the out of Bootstrap score.
Correct, you're right. So who's this? I'm sorry, I'm not able to see.
Parth. Okay. Parth there. So yeah, someone can
Okay.
answer like you can. What could be the basic difference between OOB score and validation score?
Jimmy sir, I'm not able to hear you properly.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one thing since you just answered. So yeah, I wanted to add one more concept here. So what is the full form of OOB score?
Out of bagging. Bootstrap,
Yeah, out
sorry. Out of Bootstrap.
out of box. So one thing I was saying that when you will use what is the basic difference between OOB score and validation score? It's just that I'm asking you because I just want to share that concept. That's it. Nothing else. So yeah.
In cross-validation, we are not manipulating our data in any way. Like, but in Bootstrap, what we do is we sample with replacement. So our data might have multiple instances of same data point.
Yeah. So the thing is, I was talking about the validation score and OAB score. So one thing is true that I mean OAB scores you calculate when you take sub samples and the few samples which are left, no, that you use for the testing purpose. It is like that, no. So, but in validation score, you set a particular sample, like a few sets of samples for the testing purpose. So what happens is the validation score works very well. I mean, when you have large amount of data, but when you have small amount of data, you want all the, I mean, all the samples for training purpose, then OAB score helps you in those cases. Okay, so yeah, you can continue.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thank you, sir. So yeah, you're right. The option here is false because there would be nothing left, right? Like if we have Bootstrap set to false, then you won't have an out of bag samples to kind of find out the score. Okay, next is we have to select the correct choices in the context of default values of hyperparameters of random forest classifier. So which of these do you think is right?
N estimators is equal to 100.
Yeah. So the default value n estimators is equal to 100 is right. If the other default values, if we were to look at, the criterion is Gini for random forest classifier. Min sample split is 2 because we need at least 2 samples to split, right, at each node. And min samples leaf would be 1. Those are the default values.
Quick question regarding Bootstrap. Like, it really won't make sense to do a Bootstrap when your dataset is large enough, right? It is kind of only for when you have like a small dataset or something.
So the idea behind Bootstrap is, I mean, here's what I understand, right? So idea behind Bootstrap is making something representative of a large population. So so even though we may have a large number of data points, it may not be representative of all the kind of data that we may get. So it's I think it would depend on the situation, but like when it comes to bagging, I think it would still make sense to use a Bootstrap. Jimmy, sir, you want to add something?
Sorry, actually, I just missed. I was changing earphones, so
okay. No, his question was, does it make sense to use a Bootstrap when the data set is large enough? So if, I mean, what I think is if your data is coming from the same kind of, I mean, if there are a lot of similarities in the data, right, and it's kind of biased towards a particular, to follow a particular trend or a particular distribution, then bootstrapping might still be useful to generalize that data set.
That's true. And one thing, I mean, maybe you are getting, you are mixing the concept of OV score. So there, bootstrap means, I mean, you are taking on not only the samples, but here you see in the other cases, like when you are using setting bootstrap equals true in the bagging model. So they also select some certain subset of features also. So that is it's good to set the bootstrap equals true. I mean, but when you have large amount of data and you had to calculate the OB score, then it doesn't make sense. I mean, in that case, validation score would be the better parameter. Okay. So whatever Sriya said, that is correct, perfectly fine. And yeah,
Actually,
yeah, please.
actually, I could, I mean, maybe at the end of the session or something, give one example why Bootstrap is useful, sort of like it's a small data set. I mean, it's a small example, but we can look at that as to what difference Bootstrap makes to the whole process.
Yeah, actually, just see, Partha, see, if you have samples is only high, I mean, you have lots of samples, but still, you want to iterate through the features also. I mean, let's take the first 10 features, then you have to take the first 15 features, something like that. So if you set bootstrap equal to false, then you can't do that also, no? I mean, are you getting my point?
Actually, the thing is, bagging is mainly used to reduce the variance of the model. It doesn't really
Yeah.
does the bias thing. So to reduce that variance, we actually need to have like a lot of data sets in bagging. But in
Right.
real life, we can't have like that much data points. So we set the bootstrap to true so that we are able to sample like multiple kind of data sets, which are still like coming from a distribution which is from our original data set. So that is kind of what I understand by Bootstrap. And if our data, it makes sense to do that when our data set is small enough, but if it is like large enough, let's say like 500k rows or something.
See,
So
So,
yeah.
I mean, just to give you a numerical example, yeah, you're right. I mean, your understanding is right of Bootstrap. So, suppose you have, let's say, 50 data points with centered, like which has a particular mean, right? Now, if you say that you have another 500 data points with a similar kind of occurrence, or I wouldn't say distribution, but similar kind of mean and similar type of spread that it has, then even then you will still need Bootstrap, because your 500 data points need not necessarily be representative of the population, right? So, but I think I'm getting what you're saying, in the sense that you're saying if I have 100,000 data points, it will get closer and closer to becoming the actual population. Is that what your point is?
yeah, the sampling thing would that
See,
Possible.
one
CLT
thing,
thing.
Yeah, yes, sir.
yeah. So what I'm saying, basically what you do in bagging, you create different models. Okay. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we can hear you.
So yeah. So you create different weak models. So what happens? You select, let's say, like you first. I mean, you had 20 features. Okay. So if you are setting bootstrap equals false. Okay. So in that case, let's say you took the first 10 features. Okay. You can't iterate through the features. What I want to convey here is like you have a fixed number of features only. No, that is limited. So you can iterate through this part. I mean, number of samples part. I mean, let's say you have 1 lakh samples. So I mean, you created 100 subsets where you took the around, like, let's say, yeah, 1,000 samples in each subset. Okay. So, but you can't iterate through. I mean, what I want to try is I have to try that, like, first 10 features I am taking for my first model. Then I'm trying to take the uh, like uh, feature number 5 to feature number 15, that we can't use. I mean, when you are setting it to bootstrap equals false, so in that case, you can't do that. No, I mean, you are saying that you are not, whatever you have taken, that you do not want to use for the next term. Okay. And as today is saying that the main thing is about the distribution. So you won't get the same distribution. So that's why it's good to let's say, like, as we were talking about that, like 1,000 points are belong to class 1, and hardly like 2-3 points belong to class 2. Okay. So I mean, very few points are there from it's a in the case of imbalanced data, wait, you have very few points, I mean, from the for different classes. So if you are not replacing that, then in that case you are just decreasing that samples, no, also. Hello.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah. So that will, I mean, further you are reducing that amount. the samples which are lesser in amount, you are again reducing that because you are not replacing that, no. So that will also badly affect. I mean, let's say you created 100 of sub models, and in hardly in 1 or 2 models those samples were those critical samples were there. So obviously by voting and all, so you will give more weightage to those samples, those sub models which was trained on the majority of the data, majority of the classes, like majority classes. So
yeah, sure. I think sir also like mentioned the
Also,
point.
there's like
Yes,
go ahead.
yeah. So I was just saying, just to summarize, I got your point. So it might be a little idealistic in the sense that if you are able to get a sufficiently large data set with the right, with the correct number of features, which again may or may not be consistent, and if you are able to ensure that it's not biased and is representative of the population, then you're possibly right. You may not need a bootstrapping, but it's very unlikely that this will happen, right?
No, it actually depends. It's not really unlikely, but
in how many cases would you actually be able to collect 1 million data points, which are like with
I mean,
all
if
features
it's
in a
like,
real world scenario?
yeah, there are a lot of real world scenarios. Like there is a Kaggle competition going on right now, which is called American Express. Like default prediction, it has like a data set of around 50 GB. So
Okay, I'm not sure of that, but just saying, if that is something that happens very often, then yeah, possibly you may not need a bootstrapping. But these are the factors which you would need to consider before deciding whether you would need a bootstrap.
scenario to scenario dependent.
Yeah.
Also, are tree methods affected by a class imbalance?
I'm sorry, which
Are tree methods affected by class imbalance?
tree methods?
Yeah,
They would be, no?
but they don't really assume a distribution, right, of the data.
But you would okay, I'm not sure of that. I'll probably have to think and get back on that part. But I mean, it seems like they would still be affected by class imbalance, right?
For
Sir,
boosting,
any
I can
thoughts on
understand
that?
because in boosting they give weights to the training points. But in case of decision trees or random forest, like I'm unsure if they are affected by class imbalance or not.
It could be, I mean, it's likely, right? Because when you're training, it could be that you're reaching your purity, like the impurity reduces much quicker than it actually is because of the lopsided presence of certain class labels, right? That could happen. I'm not sure, like I don't recollect like going through that, but then it could happen, right? That you, because of presence of certain labels, you're not really your tree is not really growing fully.
So I'll try researching some things.
Okay, is that all? We'll move. Sorry, you had any other question?
No, I'm said like no issues. I'll try researching some things.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Activity 10.3, which of the following Bayes estimators is used in random forest regressor? Okay, this would be none of these because random forest again uses a decision tree. So in random forest, there's no option really to set in a Bayes estimator, right? It inherently uses a decision tree. Moving on. Which of the following Bayes estimators may be used in bagging regressor? Anyone wants to? It says may be used. It is not asking for default. Which of these could you use in a bagging regressor?
I think any of these.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can use any of them. Sorry, someone wanted to say something.
No.
Okay. Yeah, so the default is a decision tree, but any of those could be used in a bagging regressor. It's just an ensemble method which puts the regressors together. There's no rule as to which one needs to be used. Okay, so this would be any of these. Okay, so these are, I think, on randomized search CV. Which of the following parameters is used in randomized search CV for specifying number of parameter settings that are sampled? In samples, iters, sample, and iter. Okay, so this would be n underscore iter when here we are specifying how many combinations is it that the randomized search CV needs to evaluate to find the best parameters. So yeah, next question is again on random search CV and grid search CV. So we need to choose the correct statement amongst this. So by default, 20 parameter configurations are examined in randomized search CV. Higher the number of parameter configurations examined in randomized search CV, better the quality. Not all parameter configurations are examined in grid search CV. In general, randomized search CV is faster than grid search CV. So anyone on?
Last three.
Higher the number of parameter configurations examined, better the quality is right. Not all parameter configurations are examined in grid search CV.
No, sorry, this is not. This is.
Yeah. And in general, randomized search CV is faster than grid search CV. That's also true because we are evaluating a smaller space of parameter combinations in randomized search CV, right? As compared to grid search CV, which is exhaustive. So yeah, that's right. B and D is correct. Yeah. Moving to activity 10.4. We're now getting to gradient boosting classifier. So what does keeping the value of subsample less than 1 do to sklearn ensemble gradient boosting classifier? Okay, so the answer is it results in stochastic gradient boosting. What does a subsample, what does a subsample parameter do in a gradient boosting classifier? Anybody wants to? What are we, what does it do when we specify a subsample of some proportion?
How many data points the estimator is fitted on?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that. Could you repeat?
How many data points the estimator is fitted on or something?
Right. So how many data points is does it need to use for each of the estimators to be fitted on? So we're kind of fitting in a sequence of estimators, right? So for each, how many of them needs to be considered? That's what subsample does.
For each data point, how many estimators to be considered?
No, for each estimator, we'll have a sequence, right? For every time there's an error, we fit another estimator and then another estimator. So for at each of those levels, how many subsamples does the model need to consider?
So if my n estimators is 100 and my subsample is 1, so only 100 data points will be seen by the
okay.
classifier.
I'm not sure if the confusion is between number of estimators and number of samples. You could have 100 estimators, but you can have 1,000 data points, right? So if you're specifying 0.5 as your subsample, then every time it will take 500 samples. So for each of the 100 estimators, it will take 500 samples.
So that means it will take the whole data set or just a single data point.
No, it wouldn't be the whole a data set, right? It will be some proportion of the data set in terms of number of samples. So if you have 1,000 data points, that is your full data set, you will have only 500 which you are considering for each of them. Half the number of data points you will consider.
That is for 0.5, right?
Yeah, if you mention this is like whatever proportion you are considering as subsample here.
Here the proportion is, in this question, it's 1.
It says, what does keeping the subsample less than 1
Sorry,
do
sorry,
to it?
listen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So the next question is, select the correct choices in context of sklearn ensemble gradient boosting regressor. I think that's got cut off. Okay. Mean absolute error is a more robust function than squared error in case of outliers. Huber loss combines both mean absolute error and squared error for a robust loss function that's less impacted by outliers, and all of them are equally sensitive to outliers.
I think Huber loss is this.
Yeah,
Sensitive to outliers.
correct. Huber loss combines the effect of both mean absolute error and squared error. So I think this would be something like absolute value of y hat minus y the whole to the power of whole square or something like that. I mean, yeah, I think that's the formula for Huber
MA
loss.
is just, there's no square, it's just absolute.
Yeah. And absolute MA is a more robust function than squared error. In case of outliers, the other correct option is this, because it is impacted less by outliers as compared to the squared error. Yeah. Okay. Shall we move forward? Okay. So correct statements amongst these. Boosting is a type of ensemble technique in which learner models are trained in parallel. Bagging is a type of ensemble technique in which learner models are trained sequentially.
Both are false.
Yeah, correct. So boosting is the ensemble technique in which we train the models sequentially, wherein we take the errors and pass it on to the subsequent models. And bagging is the ensemble technique where we have multiple classifiers with modified data sets and they are trained in parallel. So both of the statements are false. Okay. Next is choose the correct statements in the context of AdaBoost. A higher learning rate increases the contribution of each classifier, and there's a trade-off between the learning rate and n estimator parameters. Anyone on AdaBoost? So what does learning rate do in a boosting algorithm? Okay, just to clarify, learning, yeah, somebody wanted to answer.
I think it kind of controls how much we give importance to the misclassified.
Correct, that's absolutely right. Yeah. So it determines, yeah, how much importance we want to give to each classifier, you're right. So a higher learning rate increases the contribution of each classifier, right? So this is true. The second statement we are saying, so we choose the number of classifiers which we use in AdaBoost, right? So the more the number of classifiers, can you have a high learning rate or a high contribution of each of them? The idea is to have multiple multiple classifiers with all of them contributing to the model, right? So generally this is the trade-off, that more the number of classifiers you're adding, the contribution of each of them is lower. Okay, so both of these statements are correct. Okay. In sklearn, ensemble, AdaBoost regressor, subsequent regressors focus more on difficult cases.
By difficult cases, it means like points that are like hard to classify correctly or something.
Yeah, I mean, those are the ones which are prone to the most misclassification, right?
Yeah, I guess yes.
Yeah. So this is true because AdaBoost focuses on misclassified points, and by difficult, yeah, possibly what it means here is that it's prone to more misclassifications in the beginning, at least. Okay. Yeah. Moving on to activity 10.5. Which of the following statements is correct with bagging and boosting? So boosting and bagging techniques, set of weak learners whose predictive power is slightly more than guessing is used for training. Boosting and bagging techniques can't be deployed on any other machine learning model except decision trees. Boosting and bagging perform better than artificial neural networks in all circumstances, and boosting and bagging are as interpretative as decision trees are. Any thoughts?
Is it the last option?
Are boosting and bagging techniques as interpretative as decision trees? As in, if you take a data set and apply a decision tree or decision tree on it and the boosting and or bagging algorithm on it, which do you think would be more easily explainable?
All of them give like feature importance, right? And that kind of matters in interpretability.
That is true. That is true. But how easy would it be to say why a certain feature is given more importance in a boosting or bagging as compared to a simple decision tree?
That is because of the splitting criteria or something. It would be easier in decision trees because we can like draw a diagram and all that.
Yeah, it's just that it's easier to explain why a certain feature might be given more importance, right? So in boosting and bagging, you have an ensemble. Now, if you choose something like 100 classifiers with different parameters, you wouldn't be able to pinpoint as to why this particular feature was given importance, right? Unless, I don't know, even if you would go through each of them, the parameters for each of them, it would be hard.
It is not option 2 and 3 because that is not true. But in the case of first option, like the predictive power in bagging is not generally slightly higher than the guessing, like naive.
No. So okay, you're saying bagging does not use those. You're saying the learners are not weak per se, right? Yeah, I get it. I mean, I also think so. The only thing is possibly what is meant here is that it could be like high variance sort of. When they say weak learners, it could be high variance, which you use. So the individual classifiers which are used are high variance, right? So it could be weak learners in that sense. That's the only way in which I would interpret it. Not weak learners in the sense of not being able to predict accurately, but in that way. Yeah. So option 1 is the most, appropriate. So anybody else who has any doubts or any different answers? Okay. Next question is, it's sensible to keep n estimators in sklearn ensemble gradient boosting regressor at lower values as gradient boosting trees suffer from overfitting since it trains over decision trees.
The values would depend, right? Like plotting or something. If we plot a graph or something, that depends on that.
Plot a graph or, I'm sorry.
Like let's say we have n estimators and like we have maybe the F1 score. But this is the regressor, so maybe we have like a validation loss. So we plot the n estimators with the validation loss. and see like where the optimal point, and that keep that as an estimator.
Yeah, that's right. So like this is a little subjective in the sense we're saying at lower values, right? Whereas there's no really like how do you interpret what at lower values mean?
Yeah.
But in general, you wouldn't restrict it to too many low too few number of trees, right? Because again, that would lead to inaccuracy in predictions. So I mean, it would just mean weak learners being there. So I would think this is false. Yeah, Jimmy sir, any thoughts on this?
No, sorry. Yeah. Which question?
Yeah, so the second question, it says it's sensible to keep n estimators at lower values as gradient boosting trees suffer from overfitting.
So it's a false one. I mean, when you increase the number of you can directly see in the I would say in the SQL library also, like they are saying that it's a directly statement from that only. I mean, it is
Yeah, so I suppose here, yeah. Okay, so I suppose here lower values would mean like too few learners, which doesn't serve the purpose. It'll be as good as a weak learner. So yeah, okay. Choose the correct statements in amongst these. Learning rate and estimators have their values changed in the same direction in gradient boosting classifier. Learning rate and estimators have their values changed in the opposite direction, and learning rate and estimators have no impact on each other.
Second option.
Yeah, so whatever we discussed, right? So the more the number of classifiers or estimators you're adding, the lower will be the contribution for each of them. We done, I think. Yeah, so this is next activity 10.6. Choose the correct statements. Bagging decreases bias, it increases variance, increases bias, and decreases variance. Oops, sorry.
Decreases variance for sure. I'm not sure about it. It will be the second option because it might increase bias.
Yeah, correct. So decreases variance, yeah, you're right. Increases bias again for similar reasons, right? Like where you're increasing, like it makes it more general. I mean, for whatever reasons, bagging is a model which increases the bias. So it increases bias and decreases the variance. You're right. Yeah. Okay. Which of the following parameters in gradient boosting regressor shrinks the contribution of each tree? I think similar to what we've done.
Learning rate.
Yeah, learning rate is the one. And in gradient boosting regressor, which of the following parameters is used to specify the fraction of samples to be used for fitting the individual base learners? This also did. Yeah, subsample is right. And I think we're done. Yeah. So that's about the activity questions. In case any other conceptual doubts or questions on activity questions.
In the lecture videos, we have not discussed XG boost, right?
XG boost, I'm not sure whether it will be discussed in the solve with instructor. Jimmy sir?
in the last time, have they discussed it?
Yeah, I think there was some in the Jan term, right? Yeah, Jan term we had discussion on XG boost.
Okay, then we will cover that also in this term also. In this term also we will cover that. Okay. So yeah, I think because the same color we use in each term for the SWI session. So,
okay, I think there was some
yeah.
numerical example which was explained. I don't know if the collab implementation is there. Like as part of lectures, it was not there.
Yeah, as part of lecture, I don't think it was there. So I mean, they would teach. I mean, it would have covered briefly only. I mean, how to implement that.
Like XG boost is just gradient boosting from a skill in a parallel kind of fashion. So,
Yeah,
like,
something like
I was just
that.
asking if the library is covered or not because it has a separate library.
Yeah, I think it is not covered, no? Exhibit library.
No, no, XGBoost
No, no, no.
library is not there. As a technique, probably I'm not sure if it's covered, but if you are looking for an explanation regarding the technique of XGBoost, it is there it was explained in the Jan 22 term. So you could probably refer that also.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would be helpful in your MLP project, no? I mean, yeah.
It is the only thing that will be helpful in the MLP
Yeah.
project.
Because yeah, in any Kaggle competitions, if you use the XGBoost, no, XGBoost model and all, so directly you will fall in the first 50%, and after that, feature engineering will help you to improve your score. So
Yeah.
it works like that.
SKLN isn't working in MLP project.
Yeah. How many people is participating in this term?
Right now there are around 40 people, 50 people.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Sorry, Shreya, you can continue.
Yeah, no, that's all right. Anyway, shall we move on to the practice questions then? Just
Yeah.
shall I share the practice questions?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Just give me a second. Yeah, it's visible, right? Yeah, so we need to load the first two questions are getting the wine data set from sklearn. We have to split the data set into train and test sets as 70-30 and use an AdaBoost classifier. And with random state one, everything else is default. And we train the model and compute the accuracy score for the training as well as test data. So we're first using using sklearn or data sets for the load wine data, and using train test split, we split it with test size as 30%. We split it into the 70-30 ratio, and then simply implement an AdaBoost classifier. The model dot score will directly give us the accuracy score for the training and the test data set. Yeah, so that is the first part. In the next questions 3 to 5, we're again, similarly, the wine data set, we need to split it in the 70-30 ratio. This is, we're using an AdaBoost classifier here, but we also need to perform a hyperparameter tuning with grid search CV. With n estimators as 100, 500,000 and learning rate as 0.51 and 2. So again, we train the model and compute the score on training and test data. So it's a similar process that we follow for load wine data, the train test split into 70-30, and we implement the grid search CV with AdaBoost classifier. So we instantiate the AdaBoost classifier, and we instantiate the grid search CV with AdaBoost classifier as the model, and we pass the parameter grid into it, wherein n estimators for this model we choose from the range of 100, 500 and 1000, and we choose the learning rate between 0.5, 1 and 2. We need to set the CV for the grid search CV, which is given as 4. Here probably, I'm not sure if it's mentioned in the question, but I think CV is to be considered as 4 here. And since we need the training as well as the test score, we're saying return train score is equal to 2. Okay, so yeah, we fit the data on this grid search CV model. So here, this will fit the data on the best, on the model with the best parameters. And we compute the score on the train as well as the test data set. And the best parameters here are learning rate with 0.5 and estimate and 100 estimators. Yeah, the last task is to predict the score on the training and the testing set using a voting classifier. So here we are implementing a more general model with a voting classifier as so voting classifier can again take in multiple types of models, right? So we're passing in bagging classifier, random forest, and gradient boosting classifier, all of which by default use decision trees itself. So we pass all of these as the classifiers, which, yeah, so in voting classifier, these are the three classifiers which we are specifying as estimators. And we fit the model on this voting classifier. So it will choose the best, the majority voting amongst all the three classifiers, and then give us the score on the training as well as the test data set. So that's briefly on the practice assignment. Yeah, that's it, I guess. Any question?
Anyone any questions? So yeah, that one thing which Shreya mentioned, the C value was supposed to be mentioned as a 4. So I think we have updated it on the portal. So it, now you would be able to see that. So yeah. And which 2 revision session is on Thursday, no? Can you confirm?
Which one, sir?
A quiz 2 revision session for MLP.
Thursday, is it?
I
It's
think
on Thursday.
yeah. So yeah, anything else you can ask Shreya? You can ask to Shreya actually. So if no one has any doubt, so then we can wrap up this session. Anyone would like to ask anything?
So I just had a suggestion regarding MLP assignments.
Yeah, please.
So right now, like we have 12 assignments for like 12 weeks, but if you, I don't know if you have taken a look at the PDM course or not. They have like they have like 4 assignments in regular gaps. Like for first 3 weeks there's a single assignment, for next 3 weeks there's a single assignment, like that. So is it possible, or and right now in MLP where like the assignments are based on a data set, the data sets which are like already present in sklearn, already cleaned, and they're easy to load and all that. So like is it possible to like reduce the number of assignments and increase like the intensity of assignments? Because
Yeah, it would be a good idea. I mean, first, uh, one assignment for first 4 weeks, then second assignment for second, week
and
5, 6,
you
7,
guys
8,
don't
something
tell
like.
anything about what to do in those, because like we have to figure out that by ourselves. Because
Yeah,
when you provide instructions, it's like just have to go and follow an algorithm. But if we do that by ourselves, there's like a chance of failure in that, and from that we learn. We go and open the documentation and all that.
yeah, I got your point. I mean, the point is seems to be valid only. So if it is possible, then we can do that. But moreover, I mean, for the next term, whole MLT and MLP will be revamped. I mean, there would be many changes. So the syllabus would, I mean, initially we will cover the unsupervised learning part and then supervised learning part, and there would be some other professor who will record for MLP. Obviously, Sachin sir would be recording, but for MLT, maybe Arun sir can record. Okay, so there would be many changes. I mean, the course will be completely new. I would say. I mean, most of the things, the assignment patterns and all, everything would be new. So yeah, we can consider this as a suggestion. I mean, yeah, it's a good suggestion. Maybe for a few weeks we can take one assignment, because that would be a good idea only. I mean, let's see for the decision tree and this week 9 and 10 we can make a combined assignment, not for 4 weeks, but yeah, there can be something like that.
Yeah, and you can like set a threshold accuracy value or something.
Yeah,
And
like a project kind
yeah,
of thing,
yeah,
no?
it would be a
Yes.
small project. People have to do like feature engineering, all that, like simple feature engineering, not that complex. That would be like really great in getting like hands-on experience too, because uh, in Kaggle data sets we don't really do feature engineering too here.
I got your point, but the thing is, sorry, I was muted and I was speaking. So yeah, what I am saying that we can make those kind of assignment, but the thing is, there are people like who don't even understand the codes. I mean, they are completely new to the ML subject, so they complain. I mean, now also like we are seeing that around in the first 4 5 weeks we hear that people are not even able to understand the code. So those assignment, whatever you are saying, that is true. I mean, I got your point that it would be something like the Kaggle only. I mean, you will get the marks based on your accuracy of your model, something like that. So yeah, I mean, let's see in the just take an example in this exam, in this OP1 only. So in that 16th question was there, no? Like you are getting the error. Okay, you have seen what is the error, so you could have resolved. I mean, people were expecting that error should be also given in the, I mean, the question, in the question only we should mention, yeah, if you are getting this error, then you have to do this. So it is not a good practice. I mean, you will get the error, and I mean, let's see, Partha, I mean, the so I mean, I don't know like whether you are agree or not, but the thing is, see, you are getting the error that there are some samples which is not in the training set, but it is available in the test set. It can be a very common case, no? I mean, you can think like there can be a case. So, and you are getting that error, and you had to just find out that this parameter is there in that estimator or not, or maybe in that API or not. Okay, so we can yeah.
That error, the samples not being in the training data set, the test data set, that could be solved. But there were a few other errors too, like our
Yeah, so
cursor crashing. So that was like at the last, it became really panicky because the grid search tree was totally crashing at the last.
yeah. So we removed all those questions. I mean, question from 22nd, no, we removed that. So my point was not that. I mean, my point was something like, see, just for this much change only, like how much score we got, the most of the people were lying around between 20 to 40, something like that. I mean, just after that question, very few people were able to reach that question. So in that research and all. So although we have removed all the questions from 22nd to 28th, and also question number that question where the regression model was not mentioned. I mean, linear regression model was not mentioned. Okay. So, but the thing is, what I want to convey here is people's like there are many people saying most of the people are not able to solve that error also. So, I mean, that is deciding factor for our batch. I mean, like how much tough our assignment should be, something.
Yeah, and if the assignment structure is changed, maybe that will force people to like go and Google errors, because that is how you will learn, like staying on Stack Overflow and all that. Because
That is
any other
also
way,
a
there
good.
is no way of resolving errors.
Yeah, that is also a good thing. I mean, yeah, that.
Uh,
Yeah, please say.
Sir, regarding the OP, I had one feedback. So the questions, initial questions were quite easy. So we just had to get the shape and the questions for how many features and how many data points are there. So like this, and the later questions had more weightage, where and we had to work on the same data set. So if somebody is not able to split the data using the train test split, or during the transformation or scaling the data set, if some error or somebody is not able to do that, so the person will not be able to proceed to the other questions, so later questions, which has more weightage. So I think that was I faced that problem, where I was not able to transform the data, and since the data set was the same for all the questions, so
Yeah,
yeah,
I got your point. Yeah, the sequential based questions were stopping you to solve the further question. I mean, after the, so that's true. I mean, this is the problem in this evaluation process. So basically, for the next OP, we are planning to make like a, I mean, subgroup of the question. I mean, like a first 5 question belongs to, I mean, belongs to one set. Then second 5 question belongs to the other set. So and third 5 question, third set of 5 question would be belong to other set. So like that, I mean, you if you are trying to, I mean, first 5 question will be connected, then next 5 question would be also connected. But this next 5 question won't be connected with the first 5 questions. I mean, let's say like just for now, you can think like I take array data set, solve for first 5 question. Take some other data set, then just solve for second 5 question. It would be like that. But the thing is like we will set, or maybe just think like just we are giving the data set v1. Okay. So in the first 5 set, I'm asking you to just try standard scalar and then use linear regression. Then in the second 5 question set, we will ask use min max scalar and use lasso regression, something like that we can change. And actually we are planning to change something like that, because that can help. So your point is completely valid. I mean, that was the reason. I mean, one tough question and everyone was gonna, because after that we didn't see, I mean, many
yes,
improvements.
that's
Yeah.
what I wanted to convey, sir. You got the point.
Yeah. And the third thing is path. Actually, what had happened in that where you were saying that collab was crashed. So the thing was, the question was updated. I mean, question was updated later, but those updated part didn't go to the portal. I mean, we have mentioned in the question like take 1,2 for the polynomial regression. I mean, yeah, for the degree purpose, but and initially we had different pre-processing steps. For that, we had set 1, 2, 3, and it model was completely working. And after that, few change happened in the pre-processing part, and due to that, we had to change the here degree equals 1,2. So, but unfortunately, these updates didn't went to the before that only the configuration had happened. So due to that, you face this issue.
See, sir, the thing is, I for me, I was able to resolve the errors because I am familiar with the skill and API for a while now. But if I think from a new person's perspective, it would be hard for them to solve errors like why the labels are not in the test data set and all that. So those are like important skills that need to be picked up. And if right now the assignments don't reflect those, because the assignments have data sets which are already procured and they're already clean and ready to use. So if we try changing the structure of the assignments, and like instead of giving instructions on how to solve those assignments, like letting people solve those assignments on their own, I think that would kind of fix this thing of OPPE2.
Okay. Yeah, that okay, we can try. But the thing is, see, Partha, whatever you are saying, that is, I mean, ideally it should be something like that. But the syllabus, how they prepared now for MLP, whatever the content they wanted to cover, they wanted to use those data set only, which is, I mean, the standard data set which is available. And yeah, based on that, they wanted to teach how you can use the skill.
Sir, in lectures it's
Both.
fine. In lectures it's fine. We use SQL and data, but in the assignments, like the data set that was in OPP, I think that was like a fairly okay data set. There were no column labels and all that. So
Yeah.
maybe give something like that and as a regression problem, as like an assignment, and tell people to like if you get a score greater than a threshold value, you will get the marks, and something like that.
So yeah, Parth, the main issue is like how we will check that. So the many things are there. I mean, whatever you are saying, that is completely fine. I mean, ideally it should be something like that only. Then only we will be able to understand whether they are ready for the real world data set or not. But the thing is like how we will evaluate that. I mean,
The portal has sklearn installed.
uh, in the portal, you want us to install the sklearn.
No, the
So,
portal has sklearn installed.
see, currently, have you seen? I mean, how many? I mean, the people were trying to bypass the. I mean, there are many. In short, I can say that there are many bugs in the portals. I mean, our portals are not that much strong enough to handle each and everything. I mean, as of now, it is not that much strong enough. So, I mean, so you have taken MLT. You had taken MLT last term, no?
No, this time.
This term. So you would be knowing. I mean, many people have done cheating and all in this term. I mean, there are a lot of people who have done cheating and all. I mean, there are many verifications.
I'm just suggesting this change for the assignments, not for the OPP. Like OPP you take in collab. For the assignments, like you give a question or a data set, people have to code that and achieve a certain level of accuracy by doing the pre-processing and all. And you make sure that that accuracy can be achieved by like all the steps like scaling,
Yeah.
pre-processing, and all that.
So that is what I'm saying, that I mean, they have to put their accuracy score. We can't put that, we can't set the question in the MCQ format, no, like just put your accuracy. So that is the issue. I mean, so you are suggesting that we should put our question in the portal where they would just write their code, and we can make some model. Yeah, we can.
It's like a Kaggle problem statement just in the portal.
Yeah, exactly. I'm getting your point. I can ask and the portal team and all. So how can we configure that, and is it, because the thing is, see, I'm saying you basically, the thing is like we are not getting that much response in the from our portal team. I mean, ideally there are many things which can be done on the portal, but they are not able to do, or maybe they are taking a little longer time. So that's the main issue. So you want, I mean, so basically I got your idea. You are saying that we should provide them to provide you guys to put their code, and based on that code, we should automatically generate your score. I mean, accuracy score, so that we can check whether it is uh, crossing our cutoff or not.
Yeah,
Something
yeah.
like that. No? Yeah. Okay, we can ask about. We can talk about that. Let's see what the other says. And the thing is like where there have how much time it will take to run and all. That
I
is
think
all.
if the data set is simple, it won't take much time. Like
Yeah.
there are rarely any models that take sklearn is pretty optimized, so there are rarely any models that take, if the data set like 4,000 rows or something, I think that's fine.
Yeah. We can
And
ask
like
that.
you let people download the data set too. They can do that in collab too, and just copy paste the code from collab into the portal.
Yeah, that is what I'm planning. I mean, what I'm thinking. No, I mean, just you can solve wherever you want to solve, whether be it a collab or anaconda, whatever it is. So you just solve it and just put your code here
Yeah,
on our portal. So
like a
yeah,
Python script.
yeah, something like that only. So the job of the portal would be to just run that code and get their score.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we will ask that. Okay. From the portal team, let's see what portal team says.
Yeah,
I
sure.
mean, you would have seen that our portals are very basic. I mean, our portals are very basic.
So I've been troubled with portals since this model since Python.
It's a very
So it's
basic
like
portal.
programming in Python intro.
And there are many bugs. I mean, this time in your batch, many people have tried to bypass their test cases. They, although yeah, like due to some intelligence and all, I mean, due to the analysis, we are able to track them, but still, it is not possible. No, in every time we do that manual cross checking and all.
Yeah.
So that is the case. Yeah. But yeah, your suggestion, I mean, ideally it should be something like that only. Whatever you are saying, ideally it should be like that. And the thing, one more issue, we have never taught to you guys data cleaning. I mean, there can be a like full syllabus. I mean, a whole book can be on this part only. I mean, data cleaning part.
So
So that is
statistics too is like some like the starts to course video. It's like teaches us a lot of techniques related to data.
yeah. Let's see. Also, I mean, just for example, I'm asking about a question. We have to let's say we have to group our column B based on the column A only. Okay. So even we will put one question like that. No, that can I mean obviously this type of question would be on the initial portion only, like around the 20th marks or 20 between something like that. I mean question 10 to 12, question 10 or 11th will be there. So the people would be not able to solve the later question. So it is the main issue was something like that only. That's why we never tried more number of cleaning approaches also. I mean the last time also we had tried just to introduce one new column that was nothing but just the age of the car, something like that was there in OP1. So very simple steps we tried in OP1. But yeah, let's see. I mean how it was, but yeah, that is the this suggestion. Yeah, we would like to discuss on this suggestion also. Let's see what happens. But don't, again, I would say don't expect too much from the portal. That is my
So
assumption.
my course is done. Like I'm the passing, hopefully passing out this term.
Yeah, obviously. So yeah, that is the thing. But definitely, I mean, my personal suggestion would be to just after this course, MLP course, just go through a book, go through any book like which is based on the feature engineering. Just do that and participate in I mean more number of Kaggle competition. Just participate in more number of Kaggle competition. These two things will help you a lot. I mean,
Yeah, I've already started.
yeah.
A while back.
So would be my suggestion. Yeah. Because yeah, and there would be, I mean just decide like whether you want to go to the text based, I mean yeah, NLP part or image processing part. So just decide one part
I
and
decided
follow.
it's an
Yeah,
LP.
it's NLP. Okay. So there was workshop no for NLP.
I think so. I didn't attend, but I've
Okay,
been
yeah.
following an LP for a while now too.
Okay, yeah.
I'm actually excited for the deep learning course because there would be many things related to.
Yeah. So yeah, there was NLP workshop on this Sunday. So but yeah, it was just 3 hour workshop. So maybe and they allowed only those people who has completed is MLT or MLP both, or maybe MLT, at least MLT only. So they allowed those people only. So yeah, in the next term, deep learning would be the compulsory course, and after that, I think they have no plan to bring NLP course as of now. But yeah, let's see. There can be some other courses. Yeah, deep learning is coming in the next term. That's for sure. Deep learning and reinforcement learning.
This is teaching deep learning, right?
Yeah, Mitesh Thapar. He would be teaching the deep learning part, and the learning would be taken care by the Ravindran sir. So, yeah.
So like, are
Yeah.
there any like syllabus changes in deep learning, like, or is that same as the one on the site?
So yeah, definitely for they would do some little improvement or little plus minus thing. And I think deep learning would be the compulsory course. So,
It's a core course.
yeah, would be a course. So everyone would have to attend. And maybe I think yeah, reinforcement learning was in the Jan term because yeah, the Ravindra sir asked it to. I mean, they asked it as a prerequisite for DL should be prerequisite for reinforcement learning because they said that it would be easier to train. I mean, yeah, to teach reinforcement learning. So yeah, people can try that sector also, reinforcement learning. And yeah, from here onwards only like you should focus on one part. So as you said that it's a good thing that now only you have decided you want to go to this NLP sector. So yeah, that's a good thing. And only I would suggest like I mean, there could be two courses, at least two courses from here they need. I mean, first course is on feature engineering. So obviously, nowhere everything will be in no courses everything will be taught, something like that. You can see in IT is also there were not courses. I mean, the courses were like mathematics part only. So, but you have to take, you have to learn through this source or that source, something like that. So that is what I mean. They have limitations only, I mean, for the in the 12 week only they have to complete this course. So how much they had to cover, they tried to cover, and but still, I mean, few new topics would be there in the next term, and the complete change would be there in the syllabus. I mean, it would be.
Sir gave us course access again. Okay.
So it is not in our hand. I mean, I can't say anything about that. But definitely, I mean, at least in MLT part also, like now in MLT we will focus more on the mathematics part, less on the coding part. So because that is the natural style of Arun sir. So yeah, he will to like that only. I mean, let's see. And yeah, the MLP will try to follow that pattern only. I mean, the MLPs will be always something like that. They will try to go hand on hand with MLT. So let's see how they do. Yeah, and there are some. Ideally, you can, and if you want to make your career in this data science field only, which I assume you would be interested. So from now onwards only, I mean, there would be one courses on big data, that's for sure. But also, like, I mean, I would suggest you to try some few courses on Coursera also, like which are there on the production part. So as of now, we haven't learned. I mean, you haven't learned any courses on this production part. So you should try those things also. I mean, these things are there. I mean, which I felt is missing as of now, and it is not planned in our courses. I mean, in the further courses also as of now. So yeah, that is what I would suggest. So yeah, I think more or less is it okay, or anything. Anyone wants to ask anything? Yes. So all right, then we will meet on Thursday. Mostly quiz 2 revision session. 4 to 6, no? Yeah, Thursday 4 to 6 is the quiz 2 revision session. So yeah. And thanks, Shreya, for hosting this session.
Yeah, thank you, sir, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah, if you want to add anything,
Thanks.
Shreya, you can say.
No, not really, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Then bye, everyone. Yeah, bye.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.